Hey, this is Tom Calvin. Thanks for tuning in to Tomorrow's Legends.
In 2016, a new TV show hit the digital airwaves and needed a podcast dedicated to chronicling its adventures. An elite team has been assembled for this task. Unfortunately, the world's listeners have not heard of this Wonder Twin duo. And although they may not be known now, in the future they will be referred to as Tomorrow's Legends.
Hey, Flash.
Hey, Harriet, is it?
Harriet? Not some old biddy. What's going on?
Nothing really, but I'm a little unsure what all this stuff is and why I'm sitting here.
Oh, no. You're being affected by George Lucas not making Star Wars 2?
What's Star Wars? Star Wars? Are we under attack by Martians? Holy crap, get me out of here!
He doesn't even realize it's a TV show about a guy who made a movie.
Ah, bollocks.
And now, here are your hosts, the fleet-footed Flash and his hammer-swinging partner, Harley Quinn.
Hello, Legendaires. Don't worry, I remember everything. Welcome back to Tomorrow's Legends. We are doing our Season 2 rewatch, and today we are covering episodes 9, Raiders of the Lost Art, and 10, The Legion of Doom. I'm the back in time, Flash.
And I'm Harley Quinn.
Hello, Legends.
All right, let's get into the show. Again, I don't think there's any news to report. Nothing really coming out for Legends right now, is there?
No, and I did actually check this time. Nothing new.
Nothing. All right. Well, eventually they will. I mean, the seasons are getting close. I think once the other shows start coming out, then we might start getting tidbits, especially once they start filming.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they should be filming. I think there's just a super slow filming process.
That's true.
But I haven't seen a whole lot of stuff, but I haven't really been scouring like Instagram or anything. Katie usually posts a lot of stuff, but I haven't been checking their stuff.
Yeah.
So, I'm sure they took a break for the holidays and such, I would imagine.
Yeah. Well, we had a bit of news last week, so, oh well, it'll come.
Yeah.
Let's get into this. Let's get into the first episode, Raiders of the Lost Art. And I want to just kick it off by saying, like, what a tense situation to be dropped right into at the start of an episode. That's how they used to hook us right off the bat with these powerful, crazy openings, and your heart is racing, you're on the edge of your seat, and you're like, this is going to be a good episode. And I'm thinking, man, I don't remember if we've gotten that type of opening in a long time.
Yeah, I don't remember that either, because we haven't, I guess that was sort of a cliffhanger. I mean, it's not like it was a cliffhanger from the last episode, but it was definitely something we were wondering, like, where is Rip? What happened to him? But, did he really get blown up? Like, so that was definitely a payoff from the beginning of the season. So yeah, I thought it was a good way to start it off.
Yeah.
I liked that.
It's high intensity, it's fast, and it does bring a few things full circle from the end of the first season. It's cool. It's a great way to start a show because you're instantly on the edge of your seat and just interested. Oh my God, what's coming? And yeah, for sure. And another thing that I really liked about that opening sequence is we get to hear another one of Gideon's secret codes that Rip always had. And I miss getting those. Those are always fun to hear him just say like nonsense words, and then Gideon would do something crazy. So I always liked that aspect of it. Those were easily forgotten until you hear them again, which I found funny because it's when you hear it, you're like, oh yeah, he used to have all of that. And it used to be such a cool concept that makes total sense. I mean, only the captain of the ship would have access that others don't, and full control of the AI in case the AI malfunctions. And I just think it's a cool concept that they should have kept running. It'd be neat if we saw Sarah learning some of these codes. I think she does. There's the odd episode where she has one, but
yeah, I think she might get like one or two, but they've definitely gone away from it. Well, because we haven't had as much Gideon in recent seasons either.
No.
So
yeah, and not at this type of level either. I mean, this was the Gideon and Rip were like a duo. They're like Batman and Robin kind of thing. So they had, he definitely had, and it was his ship, so he programmed her, and I think he's got all these things. I mean, we see the hidden hidden area where all the weapons and history stuff was concealed, and now he's got these codes. It's just, I mean, the stuff that they had, the ideas they had back then were really, really cool. And then I had to play this scene over and over, probably 5 or 6 times before I actually understood what it was he said. Do you know what the words were that he used?
You've got it written here, and I think that was correct. So I'll let you go ahead and say what you figured out.
Well, he says Shogun ballistic.
I think that's what he said. Yeah.
Yeah, and it took me, I had to turn the volume way up and read his lips at the same time I was listening to it to try to get it. And that's what it sounded like to me. So, and that's when she says,
yeah,
but Captain,
right.
those are the words, those are my shutdown codes. And off she goes.
Yeah. It's so fun. I always liked the secret functions. All right. So another thing that I enjoyed in this episode, it just made me laugh. I love that Nate gets everybody out of bed, either through his loud music or once he wants to explain his latest discovery, he like physically wakes, or has Gideon, whatever, wake everybody up. And it just kind of made me laugh because they're all standing around the office in their PJs. And we don't see them often in PJs. I think we got a couple odd bathroom scenes in the latest season, but it did make me laugh very much to see them all sitting around just discussing theories in their PJs. Except me.
Yeah, I think there's a scene with Mick or two. There's always some comedy with him, I think, in the bathroom. Coming up sometime in future seasons. But yeah, this scene in particular, I always picture them when I see that and they show up in their PJs. I'm imagining them walking through the ship in their PJs, and that's what makes me laugh, because I'm wondering, is it cold like a spaceship would be that's out in space? You know, when you've seen in all those sci-fi movies, they're always dark and cold, and yet here they are walking through the spaceship in their PJs like we would walk through our living rooms.
I know, you would think. They must have some really great climate control on that thing, is all I have to say.
But it just shows the comfort too that they're at. They're comfortable on the ship now. That's their home away from home. So
true.
Yeah, definitely funny stuff. I mean, that scene starts with Nate, but it leads into what we've been saying so many times. I know we're broken records here, but just seeing Nate, the historian, again, it's just this scene I think really establishes how much it's missed, because it shows how smart he is. It makes us remember that he's a worthy member of the team. And even in this episode later on, you see Sarah realize it too, because when Ray and Nate start losing their memories, and she's like, what? My historian and my gadget guy are losing their memories? And she's really concerned about it. And it really drove the stake home, I think, that this is what Nate was best at and what we need to get him back to. Because he's sitting there in his office. He's like, I've been up all night and I'm playing my rock and roll music and I'm thinking and I'm figuring things out. And it's just like, yes, Nate, not the love-struck lover boy that we have now. It's just, this was Nate. This is why we fell in love with him back then.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I love these scenes too, but in the interest of not becoming a broken record, I didn't write it down. But yes, it was a good reminder. So.
It is. I just this scene, I think it's the connection, because Sarah actually mentions it. My historian, like, no, it shows the value that he had for the team as a historian. So that's why I wanted to mention it. Sure. Yeah. And then I like that he names the Legion of Doom. This is where the name comes from. And I forgot that he says it's from an old Hanna-Barbera cartoon I used to watch when I was a kid. And I was like, oh, Super Friends, love it.
Yeah. Yes, I know. So I love those little tidbits.
Good
that made me
stuff.
giggle as well.
Now, the one thing that I think this episode really sunk in, we already talked about the tense opening with Rip and that connection to season 1, but as the credits are rolling, normally the beginning of the episode is kind of establishing what this episode is going to be about, and you see all the credits of the actors and stuff like that. This opening really sunk it in again of something that I miss as well. You break it down, we get a lot of historical information. There's some ancient lore, Indiana Jones style in this episode, but some ancient lore that Nate's getting all excited about. There's tension. There's a mystery to solve that gets presented to us. And then there's a problem introduced, like we got to figure it out. And right away, within the opening credits, the entire plot of this episode is laid out, and it's absolutely fantastic. It's like you're starting a great book. It's the first act. And in a 42 minute episode, this is what the first act was. It presents everything, and then the story just sort of fleshes out and flows from there. And they did it so well in this episode. I know we're talking about how great the first 2 seasons were, but even just this episode alone, the way they opened it up and present us all of this great stuff, it was so well done. And I think right off the bat, I was like, oh man, I remember how good this one is. I got all excited again.
Yeah, no, it was a good episode. Both episodes were good. I enjoyed them a lot. I think I enjoyed them a bit more than the last couple that we watched, for sure. Mm-hmm. Although, I mean, I enjoyed the Chicago way a lot, but just in a completely different way. So yeah,
it's just the way it was. Like I said, the way it was presented to us with the lore and the mystery, and there's a problem, and it just laid it all out, and then the story starts. It's neat. It's like someone comes out on stage when you're watching a play, and they're like, all right, you're gonna get this. This is it's like who murdered who in the library with the knife, and now you got to figure it all out. It's like, yes, awesome. Okay, I'm ready. Let's get into this episode. and we definitely don't have this type of writing to kickstart episodes right now. Big difference.
Yeah. No, it is definitely a big difference for sure. But like kind of another thing that I wanted to bring up that I feel like this is something that we established in this season that I had completely forgotten about. And I'm pretty sure I harped on this in a later season. I don't know if it was last season or the season before, but they did establish that if they use the Spirit of Destiny to change reality, that if they're changing reality, that's a permanent change. And I'm pretty sure I pushed back on that hard. I think it was last season because it heavily featured the Fates. And that was the whole deal, is that they were changing reality and that all of a sudden that was permanent. And I was like, oh, that's convenient, blah, blah, blah. And I was not very happy with it. But apparently we kind of already set this precedent. So I felt like I needed to bring it up and set the record straight.
That it was presented to us earlier in the show's story, I guess, or history.
Yeah. So it wasn't merely a convenience thing for the last season,
right?
Where at the time it may have felt like it was. So I just kind of wanted to bring that point up.
So I'm trying to connect. How else have we seen changes to reality and not just time in the show? Can you think of any examples where they were changing reality and not just the timeline?
The Fates. They changed reality.
So the whole,
it was this last season.
Yeah. Okay. So that just what the Fates were doing, how they were rewriting the threads of fate and all that stuff. Okay. I was trying to think of other times other than that as well, if there was anything.
I don't know. They may have dabbled with it in season 4, which would have been the Neron season, just because it involved Constantine and Neron and all of that. But I definitely, with the Fates being more involved in season 5, I definitely feel like that's for sure where it came up. And I was like, well, that's convenient.
Yeah, that's true.
And my bad. We'd already done this.
Yeah, maybe back here it wasn't as annoying because I know we were kind of excited about it. Like, what? Changing reality? That's bad news in the wrong hands. Uh-oh.
Yeah, no, for sure. I feel like they presented it in a way that didn't seem plot devicey, whereas when they present it in season 5, it absolutely feels like a plot device. And I think that's the difference.
Yeah, exactly. It was part of the story here and part of what our bad guys were trying to accomplish, which made it work.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, it technically was in season 5 too, but it just, I don't know why, but it felt more heavy-handed, I guess. But not in a good way. I don't know. Anyways, I mean, it worked out, and clearly we've kind of set that precedent before, but anyways.
Yeah, but at the same time, it kind of makes the writing for the new season kind of lazy because, let's just use the same old idea, just repackage it.
I guess, yeah. I mean, it made sense with the villains at least because that was what they did. But yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I guess. But here, I mean, the spear, the idea of the spear was broken in pieces, so they had to go collect the three different parts And the history behind it is it's the spear that originally pierced Jesus when he was up on the stake. I mean, the writing behind it is grounded in way more factual based. And I think that's what makes it work better for the story here, where the Fates is just complete fantasy and a little bit, hard to swallow in believability. So maybe that's another key difference too.
That's true. That's true. That this was a little bit more based in fact. I mean, with, the Roman Empire and, and Jesus and just things that actually happened. Whereas like Greek mythology is fairy tales at best. I mean, they make for great stories, but that's a good point. That may have felt why it was more contrived.
Yeah. Yeah. And just, I think just the connections to, I mean, that's the whole idea of this episode. It had a very Indiana Jones flavor to it with the relics and the artifacts. So
yeah,
I think it just really added all to it to make it more complete.
That's true. Yeah, that's a good point.
Now, another thing that I noticed in this episode was the great camera work. And I was curious if Dreamweaver was going to notice this too. So we'll have to see if she says anything in her feedback for us. But the camera work, the angles and the movements to match the scene, everything just flowed really, really well. And what I mean by angles is when someone was supposed to look menacing or intimidating, the camera was below them looking up. So that the characters, they weren't necessarily looking down at the camera, but they were looking down at something. So it gave them that menacing look. And if they were trying to present something new in the scene, well, the camera was moving left to right to kind of show us both sides of whatever. Like just all these really neat things. And the action, the way the camera would move around to it wasn't your typical, in a lot of episodes where they do the spinning thing where the camera just circles the actor. It didn't do it in this episode. It would just do kind of a half circle or a pan across. And I just felt that whoever was directing this episode, I failed to look it up, but they just had a whole different idea of how the camera was supposed to work. And it flowed extremely well. And it stood out to me because we're doing a rewatch and we've done so many seasons of the show that I'm able to stand back and look at those kind of things now. And I just think there was something different about the way the director wanted the camera to move and to show the different things. And it worked really well.
Nice. Yeah. That's pretty cool. I'm not going to lie. Those are not things that I notice, but that is very cool that they were doing that for sure. Mm-hmm. Now, here's a bit that I forgot, but didn't really forget, but it was just really funny to see again, was that, Rip/Phil's whole thesis film is, of course, all based on his experience, which, of course, is all based on what we've seen in season 1.
Yeah.
And they totally make fun of Vandal Savage and say he's not menacing and all these things. Although I think in hindsight, I know at least the two of us, we definitely decided he wasn't really that bad. So I kind of had mixed feelings about this scene this time around. Because it was funny when we first watched it, but now it's just kind of like, he wasn't really that bad.
So when you're saying that bad, meaning he wasn't this goofy or corny, as the way Rip's film was making him be portrayed as like really a really bad actor and really, bad lines for him to say and stuff. Yeah, well, that's what we figured that out after our season 1 rewatch. We're like, Savage was actually a pretty good villain for a first season, and we agreed on that he wasn't that bad at all. And you look at his overall story and what he really was trying to do, and he was pretty menacing. And so, I get your point here that this was an unfair rendition of him, really. But it was based on all the flack that they got for Savage being a horrible villain. That's what they based this mockery on. So.
And I mean, we didn't like him the first time through that much either. So I don't know. Yeah, it's interesting it's interesting on the rewatches how a few things have changed. But
yeah, exactly. But I mean, this actor that was playing him, he was over the top bad. I would be upset too if I was the director.
Well, I guess when you're a film student, you don't have a lot to work with.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you're just pulling other students out of the school as well to help you out.
Yeah.
But on the contrary, the lines written for all of our actors in this episode were so funny. I mean, I think the writing for this episode was so great. And making George Lucas's Rip's assistant in film school was a priceless idea. This is Lucas being a film director himself. I mean, they had the writing for this and the ideas and the the dialogue that the actors got, this episode was just really, really well put together in that sense. And I know we enjoyed it the first time around, but the second time around, I think I may have even enjoyed it more. I was just having a really, really good time.
Interesting. See, I thought it was a good episode. Like, don't get me wrong. I don't think it was bad, like in any way, shape, or form, but the George Lucas stuff didn't play as well for me the second time around. It got a little, I was like, okay.
Well, I liked the Star Wars references and the Indiana Jones references, all the Lucas stuff. That the part that bugged me, and I know it bugged me the first time around, is how often Ray and Nate kept saying his full name.
Yes,
you
nitpicked on that.
George Lucas, you must do this. George Lucas, can you help us? Like, just come on, just call him Lucas. We all know who it is.
That's funny.
But it's just the stuff all around that. Now, when Dark and Merlin attacked in the alleyway there, and they're standing kind of above, over the railing, shooting down at everybody, I don't remember them being that bad shooting a gun. I mean, these guys are trained assassins, and you think, okay, do they only know how to fight with swords and bows and arrows? Because they're within 20 feet. Like, I'd say even maybe within 10 to 12 feet, and they couldn't hit anything with their guns. I thought, no. How are they so bad at shooting a gun at close range? I really kind of scoffed at that this time.
Maybe they're not used to laser guns. I don't really know. I don't have a good explanation for this.
I don't know.
I'm sure.
You and me could hit a target from within 20 feet away. It's crazy. It's not like those laser guns have big kickback like you're shooting a shotgun or something. It's a
good point.
Anyway, it was funny.
It is funny, I guess, because they couldn't slaughter the legends and Rip Hunter. But that's all I got. Plot device.
Yeah.
Now, here's something that I felt was interesting that I knew we got it at some point, but I couldn't remember if we'd already gotten it or if it was coming or what it was. But it's the explanation of Mick and like sort of Snart, but not really, I guess, because the Time Masters put that device in his head. Now, we get Martin Stein to kind of explain about it, and he's like, oh, hasn't really been working. Guess you've taken too many blows to the head and blah, blah, blah. And so he ends up like taking it out. But I do like that we finally got that payoff to kind of come back that, hey, by the way, when Mick was Kronos, he was, basically being like brainwashed. He had, chip in his head to prove it. So I know for a little while that was something that we always kind of like nitpicked on, was how did Mick forget all of his stuff? And yeah, this is exactly how and why. So I know that's not something we were harping on, but I just wanted to call that out because I did kind of like that explanation of it. And, it was good to hear the full explanation again.
Yeah, and I totally forgot all of this stuff, like with the chip in his head and the connection to the time. And I love revisiting all this stuff because it was so well written back then. I mean, like you just said, the connection to the Time Masters and his time as Kronos. I mean, that was some great story segments in season 1. And it was really, really cool. And it brings this season full circle. And it keeps a deep storyline that's going all the way through since season 1. And I think that's what's really great about these first 2 seasons is they are interconnecting them with all these little pieces of, story writing. And it just, I love this stuff. It was that was intense in season 1. And the fact that they could bring it back and see that Mick has something to struggle with, and it allows for him and Stein to have a bit of a relationship connection, which we haven't seen yet. Just again, really, really well done stuff here. And I missed that, oh yeah, the Chrono stuff. Like at this point in time, you forget about it until it's brought up, and then you have that oh wow, oh yeah moment, and good stuff.
And because that definitely was a question that we had coming out of season 1, going into season 2, the first time around, was how did he just magically forget all of this? And so this was that needed explanation,
and it perfectly acceptable.
Yeah,
like it's just I loved it. It's good stuff. I just. Good stuff. Now, Ray and Nate were also starting to forget all their nerdier aspects of their life due to George Lucas quitting film school and never making Star Wars and Indiana Jones. And again, I just want to say, like, that is such a fun idea. They had such great ideas back then, and it worked into the story so well with Ray and Nate losing their inspiration that led to what they did with their lives, and you already said it. This is what time travel mayhem is all about, and how it can change the future. And this is the time travel stuff that we miss. It's just, it's so good.
Yeah, it is. No, it was. I thought it was good. I mean, I like this aspect of it because I mean that was true for a lot of people, that Star Wars or Indiana Jones or whatever did inspire them to kind of go on to have careers. And I mean, in anything. I mean, you could, get a lot of different inspiration for all of that. It inspired a lot of actors, inspired a lot of film students, and inspired a lot of scientists. So, I thought that was a cool concept to kind of bring back. It made me cringe a little because as they got less smarter, I don't know, I guess I have PTSD from recent seasons. I was like, this isn't going to last, right? I'm pretty sure this is just this episode.
Yeah.
But anyways,
I mean,
that's just me.
They made Nate a yoga instructor, which is just funny because
This is hilarious.
I would love to have seen him come out in tights or something and start stretching, or just something that is new life, but no, it's just funny. But yeah, like you said, the concept of this, again, it plays on everything that we loved back then about when you mess with the timeline, things can change in the future. And this was just a fun little way to show that. But it's just so well done, and it allowed us to have some fun with it. And even though they were kind of making light of it, it was a serious situation. As I had said earlier, the way Sarah reacted to it, she was pretty concerned. So,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I mean, she was for sure.
Good stuff. Now,
there is a really small scene in here, and I guess in the long run it didn't matter, but I thought this was interesting because in the hallway when they kind of confront Merlin and Darkloom, they're trying to get George Lucas back into film school. Merlin does take Amaya's totem, and he keeps it for a little bit. I mean, she does end up getting it back before the end of the episode, but I just had kind of forgotten that little tidbit that he knew what that was, and he knew enough to take it off of her, so basically rendering her useless, or at least not useless, but at least not super powered. I mean, she's still a trained martial artist, but
and I think that could have been a good story arc for Amaya if they kept it going through maybe 2 or 3 episodes worth, that he kept her medallion and she was now powerless. I think that could have been something good for her, so we could see how she deals with it, and see if Merlin could ever somehow gain the power himself, if he could do anything with it. I don't know. I mean, it was cool that he knew what it was. I mean, that shows his knowledge of ancient artifacts or other countries' beliefs and their power systems. I don't know. It was just really cool, and it made it for a real threatening moment for her because she did lose her powers with that. So, you imagine how often could that happen? It's just an amulet she wears around her neck. How easily could that necklace be broken every time she's fighting, right? So.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like pretty easily.
Well, look at Merlin. He just reached in and grabbed it from her. So
yeah, I think most people don't know what it is or know enough to take it.
That's true.
For sure.
But he did.
He definitely did. Yeah, and he got the jump on her. He's like, I'll take that.
Yeah.
So it was interesting concept.
Yep. Now, another thing I wanted to point out here is the tech on the Waverider, all the gadgets and the gizmos, the controls, the engine parts, and the medical bay for Gideon when we saw Mick being examined there and it had that weird 3-arm wavy thing going back and forth over his head. I mean, they used to go all out back then to make our Waverider look like a futuristic time ship. It was really cool stuff. And I think due to budget cuts and stuff, they've really slacked on the look of the ship and how cool, because this episode alone, it really, really highlighted how awesome the ship was when they were wandering around through it.
Yeah, there's definitely, I mean, stuff like that, especially as seasons go on, it kind of usually falls by the wayside just because they're, focusing on other things and not needing to establish what all the Waverider can do. Like, we know what that can do, but I do agree. It does make it look cool, and the aesthetics of it are fun. So
yeah.
But we don't get to see it very much anymore.
Not as much.
All right, I wanted to bring up Merlin's facial expressions, especially during the fight scenes, because I thought they were absolutely fantastic. Like, the first time when he hits Nate as Steel, and then you kind of see the reaction on his face of what that felt like to collide with Steel. And then then Amaya gets her amulet back. She uses the gorilla spirit to toss him, and just there's just a lot of little like comedic moments in this episode, like stuff like that, just like facial expressions and different situations, like Merlin and Dark in the elevator. Like that was another one that made me laugh. And so it was just, that kind of stuff that I appreciated.
Yeah. Well, and considering that the actor playing Merlin is doing it against CGI that he can't even see. So I don't know if they're using the tennis ball on a stick trick, or if he's just either like, it's roughly going to be here, so act that out. And, he's doing a really good job of reacting and providing those expressions against things that aren't even actually there for him as an actor. And, that elevator scene is just funny. I mean, this whole episode had some of the best comedy that we've seen. And it went all the way through the episode, start to finish. There wasn't anything that you really kind of went, oh, God, like, enough. It was just funny, start to finish.
Yeah. It was good.
Except maybe the George Lucas over and over again. That was the only spot.
Yeah. I don't know. The stuff with George Lucas, like I said, wasn't as good for me on the second time around. But
right.
It wasn't bad. It was fine. It was good.
I just want to point out for our friend Podcast Overlord that Sarah again looked really great this episode with I like the straight hair and the makeup they used on her again. And it just seems like every couple episodes they really nail her look down. There's some where she's just like, don't quite dig it. Like I don't like when she does the 2 pigtail braids or whatever. But in this episode, the straight hair, they nailed it. She looked great.
If you say so. I think she always looks fine. She always looks good.
Well, I know Overlord will agree. He'll probably say that too. She never looks bad. What are you talking about?
I'm sure. I'm sure.
Now, I laughed. I didn't remember this, but man, I was actually laughing is every time we had a fight scene in this episode, Malcolm was beating on Jax and kicking his ass. And I loved it. I was just laughing. Jax can't fight. And I mean, Malcolm's a trained assassin and Jax is just he's really just a jock who thinks throwing your fists is all you need to do. But man, he got his butt handed to him every time. It was pretty funny.
Yeah, I didn't notice that, but that is pretty funny. Because you're right, he's not really trained. He relies on his superpowers. Yeah,
exactly. He's just a young kid, a teenager or young 20s who just thinks throwing your fist. That's all it is. He doesn't really know how he's fighting, but it was funny. I think there was at least twice for sure he got his butt whooped, and I laughed. Overall for this episode for me, I mean, the Star Wars references put it over the top. I loved this one so much more this time, I think. I'm thinking it's easily in the top 3 of this season so far. Definitely top 2 so far. I'll have to see about season overall, but just all around smooth story, great ideas, solid jokes that flowed within the scenes, the camera work, the added extras. There was so much punch to this episode that I think I rated it higher this time. I have to go back and look, but I loved it. This one I really, really enjoyed. And Patty Spivot wasn't even watching it with me. She was watching her hockey game, and I came running upstairs. Oh my God, you're missing the best episode. And as soon as I said, that's the Star Wars one, and she was, oh yeah, all that George Lucas stuff. She remembered it from however many years ago. So it's a good one.
It was a good one. Like I said, this was the stuff, all the Star Wars stuff and that was the stuff that I was like, on a rewatch. It was fun the first time around, but I didn't get as giddy the second time around. But I'm also not as hardcore of a Star Wars fan as others or Indiana Jones. So
yeah, well, true. But I think even just as a whole, the episode itself was just really well put together, despite the Star Wars stuff. I think it was well pieced together. It was constructed real well. So
yeah.
Well, let's get to our quotes of the week for this episode.
Shape out an eagle.
All right. What one are you going with for?
I went back and forth on a few of them, and in the end, I think I decided on Fix Me.
Fix you? Okay, I'll fix you. All right.
Hey.
Here it is.
You're my best friend. I love you, man. What did you hear?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Though if I did, I suppose I might be flattered.
I wasn't talking to you.
Perhaps you've had enough to drink for one night.
That's the point. I haven't had enough.
So, if you weren't talking to me, then...
Snart.
Snart what?
I've been talking to Snart. I've been seeing him lately.
You've been having hallucinations of Leonard.
If you tell anyone, I'll kill you.
I believe you.
You can fix me.
Me?
You're a doctor.
Of nuclear physics.
Same thing.
Mr. Rory, I can't...
You can fix me, but you can't tell anybody about it. You got that?
Yes.
You got that?
It was an oddly intense, funny, but weird funny kind of scene. Just like the back and forth. It just made me laugh when he's like, "You're a doctor of nuclear physics. Same thing.
Same thing.
No, not same thing."
Yeah, it was a good mix of tension and humor. And I mean, what Mick's saying is funny, but he's legitimately a little bit worried about himself. And it, that was good. But like I said, it really allowed for a connection between these two characters, which we haven't had yet. And we're halfway through season 2. So it allowed them to actually work together and end up having a really good scene or good scenes together this entire episode.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Well, I couldn't settle on one. I've got 2, and one of them is kind of a funny one, and I this one's Our Only Hope, and I think I actually chose this last time. The first time through we went with this, but it's just it's the Star Wars stuff, and the fact that Amaya is using these lines, and what I like about it is she's trying to sway Lucas to change his mind about quitting school and actually help them because his movies changed the world. And I just love the idea that Star Wars changed the world and Indiana Jones helped so many people. And you're so, just the way she's saying it, you could see Lucas just getting totally influenced and getting all these, light bulb moments in his head of scenes for Star Wars, which is with the things that she's saying. So that's why I chose this one. So it's called Our Only Hope.
I'm sorry about my friends. I just...
Completely insane?
Yeah. But what they say is true.
Oh. Okay, what, that you guys are from the future, that you've somehow seen a bunch of movies that I haven't even made yet?
Well, actually, I'm from the past, but that's beside the point. Look, George, I don't care about movies, but guys like them, they do. So before you get in that car and drive back to Modesto, just think about them, okay? Them and all the millions of other people that your stories will someday inspire. The future of the entire world is at stake. And you're our only hope.
See?
So cheesy.
But it's at that moment where he's getting totally inspired and,
It was a nice speech.
Yeah.
She did give a nice speech.
Yeah. So now I've got one that's a little bit more serious, and I wanted to ride this one off of your quote, because again, it's a Stein and Mick scene, and it's after the surgery when they're at the end of the episode when they're kind of reconnecting about it and talking about, how it turned out. So here's that one.
How are you feeling? Have you seen our mutual friend around lately?
No. That's because you took the chip out.
Well, actually...
You did take the chip out?
Yes, I did. But after further inspection, I discovered that the device hasn't functioned in months. It seems you've taken one too many blows to the head.
So I am going crazy. I'm seeing a ghost.
There is no ghost. Leonard Snart truly is no more.
Then why do I keep hearing his voice?
That voice inside your head is your own. If Leonard Snart is second-guessing your moral obligation to this team...
But that's what I feel.
We all hear contradictory voices inside our heads, Mr. Rory, creating what is known in psychology as cognitive dissonance.
My brain hurts.
No, I'm sure it does. The complexities of human emotion can at times be mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Poor Mick.
Poor Mick. Some good science.
Yeah, exactly.
Yay.
All right, let's move into the next episode, which was Legion of Doom.
Yes, I really liked this one. And I mean, even as soon as this intro started, I was like, oh, this is why I love this episode so much. It was all from their perspective. I thought that was fantastic. They had villains almost literally take over the show. And I was trying to think about it, and I don't think this has happened since this episode, where the villain story was actually our A plot and our legend story is the B plot. We're just kind of filling in the way that the villain story would normally fill in to give us a little insight. So I thought that was pretty cool.
You're right. I don't think they've ever done this again. And I mean, with Dark doing the intro and like you said, with everything being flipped around, it's such a neat twist storytelling on this show. And it made for a fun perspective, because when you usually see the hero side and only the villains filling in and they just keep showing up everywhere, you don't actually get to see how they get from place to place and what makes them decide to do what they do. And this perspective is what gives us the answers to that. And it fills that in for us. And I thought it was fascinating. It was fun. And it allowed these guys to really get to flesh out their relationships with each other. And that made it fun. And yeah, it was just good all around. And then during this opening part here, I started thinking, well, wait a second. If they took Dark from his timeline on Arrow 32 years earlier, what does that do to the Arrow storyline? Like, how does that, would that not affect everything in season 4 of Arrow?
I don't remember how they get around that, or if they do, but yeah, in theory, it would be like our Flash timeline. It's just changed.
Yeah.
Not that we get to see it, but
no, we never would get to see
changed.
It. But,
yeah.
But if you're a fan of Arrow, just imagine how different season 4 of Arrow would be if the Dark was completely, because whatever he does, he's trying to stop himself from being killed. So whatever he does is going to totally affect that season. And I mean, it'd be so cool if they had the time and the money and the whereabouts to do a what if storyline in the Arrowverse, just all the shows. What if this happened and you get to go see an episode of a scenario? So what if Damien Dark isn't killed? Okay, well, what happens? What's going to go on with Arrow? I mean, it'd be neat.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be cool. I don't know. They probably won't ever do that, but it would be interesting.
Well, they won't even pick up Green Arrow and the Canaries right now. Oh,
I know.
Jeez, I guess we could have had that in our news section. They not only did CW say they're not going to do it, but I guess they tried shopping it to HBO because HBO is getting all of the DC content now, and even HBO said, "No, we're not interested." So it's completely dead now. It will not come.
Well, that's sad.
Which sucks.
About that. Yeah.
Yeah. So the logo for the show was kind of cool. It was very Legion of Doom style. Loved it.
Yeah, I know. I do like it when they switch it up to match what's going on. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Fun stuff.
Another nice little touch. Mm-hmm. And because we've mentioned this several times, I felt like we needed to note that this was another trip to the future, even if it's the not so distant future in this episode, because they go to Zurich 2025.
Yeah, it's like 4 years from now.
From now, but from then it was 8 years. Yeah.
Still, so. But yeah, I mean, it's true. I think we were having trouble remembering how many times we went to the future, and it keeps showing us that, oh yeah, they actually maybe went there more times than we recall.
Yeah, I definitely think they did. Some were more memorable than others, but yeah, for sure. Let's see. Now these scenes just make me laugh. I'm probably going to jump around a little bit in this episode, but Merlin and Dark together at the bank the first time around when they try to sneak, Rip/Phil in, doesn't know who he is, and they're have to end up like fighting their way out. Just the way they're nonchalantly killing all the security guards. It just made me laugh. And just the two of them together in this whole episode is just hilarious. Like I love the evolution of their relationship, the little quips, the little one-liners, just all of the things. It was so good. And I loved how they went from not trusting each other to trying to kill each other to working together to outsmart Thawne. It was just a whole progression, and I completely loved it.
They were a very Laurel and Hardy type of pairing. I don't know if anybody out there knows who Laurel and Hardy is. That's like black and white, Three Stooges time period type stuff. But they played off each other so well all the way through, always trying to one up each other. Typical schoolyard jocks, just trying to outdo each other. And it was funny. Good stuff.
It was just good. I loved all their scenes together, which is most of this episode, but loved it.
Yeah, it's true. It was mostly them all episode. I mean, Eobard was only in and out a few times, so yeah. Until the end, yeah. He comes back. Yeah. But. Well, speaking of Eobard, though, I don't remember him having super strength. Do you? Because in Flash, I don't remember him ever having it. I don't remember, and here he obviously has it because he speeds in and grabs Merlin by the throat and lifts him up into the air against the wall, and he's holding him up there with one hand for like a couple minutes. That's superhuman strength. I couldn't pick you up by one hand by your throat and hold you up in the air. No, that's a good point. So I don't recall Eobard having super strength. I don't think that's a speedster thing. I don't remember at all. I don't think so either. Yeah, I really have an explanation for that. That's kind of a good point. I wonder if anybody else has any insight into what they think was really going on there. Like maybe, I don't know, was he still using the Speed Force somehow? I don't know how that would even really work, but vibrating his molecules to be able to, I have no idea, but he held Merlin like 2 feet off the ground there with one hand. So good point. Good point. Who knows? I don't know. Continuity error, maybe. I don't know. We'd have to look into that, but. Now the set lighting, I think we're rewatching these episodes. I'm really starting to pay attention to background stuff and effects and things like that. So the one thing that I pulled out of this episode was the lighting on set of the Waverider. It seems to be so well planned out. And what I mean by planned out, for those of you who don't get how a movie set or a TV set works, there is a lighting person that has to set up all the lights so that the actors and everything is lit a certain way, whatever the director is wanting. They have to be lit a certain way. So there could be anywhere from 3 to 20 lights all pointing in certain directions to light everything up. And when you notice the Waverider here, when they're all standing on the bridge and they're all around the table or they're, the computer console, whatever, everybody is lit up so well. And even in this, the Waverider has this grayed out kind of look to it. Everything's kind of gray and spaceship gray looking. Yet the lighting is bright, and that there was no shadows, there was no nothing. Everyone was just brilliantly lit, and the colors were vibrant. I was thinking, wow, this episode looks so good, just with the lighting. I was really appreciating that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's true. The Waverider is always pretty bright, which is interesting if you think about it. Like, how do they actually do that? Yeah. How would you? I guess. Well, I mean, you can notice on the walls looks like LED paneling or light strips going all the way around the walls on a couple of the scenes. So it's like, it's well lit. That's true. But, yeah. One way to do it. Now, I don't know. This stood out to me, and maybe this is because I was trying to think of different ways that we could have brought Lily on board the Waverider more. But I actually think that her and Ray would have made an interesting pairing. And then they could have kept Ray, and then they could have put Lily on the Waverider instead of going down the whole storyline with Nora and the Darks and all of that. Like, I mean, I know we can't go back from that now, but I feel like they would have maybe even made a little bit of a better pairing. They're both science nerds. It kind of would have made a little bit more sense as a romance for his character. So... I don't know. What do you think about that? Well, it's a good point in two parts. I agree with you. Lily and him make a good pairing because of their scientific nerdiness, and I think they would have been a good match. But I'm wondering if she's still maybe quite a bit younger than the whole team is at this point. It sounds like she just is in college or something. I'm not sure, but she seems like she's still quite a bit younger than them. Just as a point to make, but in comparing to Nora, yes, she seems like a better match for Ray in the sense that she's nerdy like he is with all the science and the gizmos and stuff, whereas Nora was dark and magical and demonic and all that, and that doesn't suit Ray at all. But from an acting standpoint, I loved Nora so much, and I loved the way they played off each other that would be hard for me to trade for Lily. Well...
you can't really trade real life chemistry for fake chemistry.
But at the same time, it's the way Nora was played. I mean, I love the actress. She was the most fun out of all the add-on characters we had. She was definitely my favorite. So it's hard. It would be hard for me to trade her for Lily just because of her. I loved her a lot.
Yeah. But I don't know. I just thought I would throw it out there.
Yeah, no, and it's great. Well, just imagine if that happened back then, it would have been great, I think, for Ray, because obviously Amaya slowly shifts towards Nate, so Ray needed some kind of companionship, so it would have been good, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's kind of where I was going with it.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so one of these scenes that I absolutely loved was them trying to unravel how Thawne can exist and why he needs the Spear of Destiny. It was absolutely fascinating, and I missed time travel. This made me miss it a lot. This was some really good theorizing.
Oh my God, I loved all of this stuff. I mean, the connections to Flash Season 1, the crazy science of it all, how they can make it work with him going back and forth through time before or after he dies, all that. Oh man, I mean, mind-boggling, but awesome fun. Yeah, I miss it. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that got us going whirlywhind with our theories and our ideas and our thoughts and our discussions. And man, this is the kind of stuff we miss. And then you add in Nate trying to figure it all out, figure out the time aberration, and then Stein knowing it's Eobard because he was there during that story on Flash. This was the stuff of legends. And I mean that.
Very funny.
Mm-hmm.
All right, keeping on the theme with Thawne, because we're getting to the point of the episodes where he is back, and he's kind of terrifying. In a lot of ways. And I love the way I don't know if it's the direction, the shooting, the after effects, whatever it is. I mean, combined with his acting, like it's so good. Like, especially when they do the effect of like him confronting Phil/Rip is just great, because he's like standing there and then he like speeds forward. So he's like inches from his face.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I love the way that they edit that to make that effect work. It's just so cool. I don't know. I feel like Matt Letcher did a great job of really getting that like Thawne menacing look about him, considering that he never got to have a whole lot of time in Thawne's head before this season of Legends.
No, it's true. He did. And he made a great villain on the show when we wouldn't have expected to have a villain like this. I mean, he makes the backbone of this second season. And it's, he was awesome. And he did a good job there. And it's, and it's interesting, you're going to get to it in the next point, but his transition, because he's been menacing up to this point, and then we see the switch when they introduce Black Flash, and then you see a change in Thawne, and you're like, whoa, okay, if this is scaring him, what's coming? Yikes.
Exactly. Yes, that was like the other thing. I was like, yes, we get to see the Black Flash in this episode, and just learning all about those implications was just so fascinating. And then seeing Thawne like literally actually terrified was fantastic. I loved that scene and the way he just sort of plays it. I mean, it's all in his face. It's so great. He does such a great job.
Again, he's playing off of special effects that aren't actually there. And that's a sign of a good actor. I mean, how do you portray being scared when there's nothing in front of you that's actually scaring you? It's crazy. So, I mean, he does a good job. And I mean, man, that Black Flash, truly the freakiest and most terrifying thing we have ever had on this show. And this stuff was just so well done. Like I said, the best scary bits that we've ever had. And I mean, way more freaky and scary than any demon stuff we've had with Constantine. Now, this was the stuff that was freaky to me. And the way it ties into the Flash lore and the Speed Force and the time travel and the consequences, all of it. This last part of the episode I loved so much. I was in complete glorious satisfaction of how great they were tying everything in. Like I said, the Flash lore and the Speed Force and Thrawn. I had Star Wars on my mind. Thawne. Just, I loved all of it. It was so good, so well. This last part of the episode just blew me away. So good.
It was very well done. I mean, even down to them finally changing Rip Hunter back to Rip Hunter with a few alterations.
Yeah, like when they were digging into his brain and they're like, oh, we can fix a few things. And I mean, not even that alone, that scientific little nuance there that they can, rewrite his memories and his brains, but fix some of the connections and stuff. Which is cool because Rip then goes on a bit of tear through history here. And And this was the point I had mentioned earlier in the last couple episodes when he knew Rip was coming. I was like, yeah, we get to the evil Rip, which I know we enjoyed so much better. And I found that the actor played that part better. It was more believable, and it was a lot more fun to watch. And it made us get to enjoy a Rip Hunter character that wasn't, at least for me, leaning onto the annoying side quite often. So, it was good to see him come back.
Yeah, I didn't mind Rip as much as you did, but I do remember that evil Rip tends to be quite entertaining. So
yeah, I'm
excited to rewatch those episodes and see if I like it as well as I did the first time.
Well, it makes our Legion of Doom 4 characters now, right? So
yeah.
This episode, I mean, for 42 minutes, it was really full. There was so much going on when you look at it. Wow, there was a lot.
Yeah, it was completely jam-packed. It was impressive what they did in 42 minutes.
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, out of those 42 minutes, did you find a favorite quote?
I sure did.
Cool. What one did you get for this one?
I picked Legion of Needs.
What do you think you're doing? Renegotiating the terms of our partnership.
And it is going to be a partnership.
We need a bit more of a guarantee that you're going to uphold your end of our bargain.
I'll guarantee you one thing. If you don't open that door, I'll kill you.
Yes, but I'm the only one who knows the code to open it.
Perhaps you can persuade our friend to cooperate.
Me?
No, I'd rather see how this plays out. Oh, it seems you two have formed an alliance.
There's just one problem, that you're the only one who can give us what we want. Yes, we know.
You're always so quick to remind us how much we need you, Eobard.
But clearly you need us.
You could have gone in this vault all by yourself. Why didn't you?
And for that matter, why would a man who can travel through time always be in such a hurry?
We don't have time for this. Oh, I've got all the time in the world.
Such good stuff. Yeah.
Oh. It is.
And that's right at the switch when we see Eobard starting to get a little panicked.
Yep.
And my scene I should have actually played first because mine comes like seconds before yours, and it was Nate trying to figure everything out about Thawne.
Oh.
And I should have played them in the other order, but here's that one. I called this one Speed Theory.
Guys, I think I just figured it out. Why a seemingly invincible speedster would need to take on partners.
By all means, Dr. Hayward, please enlighten us.
Okay, what if Thawne isn't just chasing us? What if he's running from something?
But running from what?
Time.
Time takes time to harden.
And if Thawne ceased to exist the moment his great whatever killed himself, then maybe he has to keep moving in order for his own non-existence not to catch up with him.
That doesn't even begin to make any kind of sense.
I don't know, it could work. Professor, what do you think?
For the scientific method, there's only one way to prove it. You'd have to trap Thawne in one place and then see what happens.
Oh. See what happens, indeed.
See? I think at the same time Nate went mind blown, we were all going mind blown because he laid it out for us, and because we're all trying to figure out how can Thawne be here, and he basically just gave us the description of how he could be there, trying to outrun himself before his own fate catches up with him. I was just, oh my God, the writing was so good back then. This was awesome stuff.
I know, it was good time travel stuff.
It got me so excited, and I think revisiting this really, really sinks in how great the writing used to be.
Yeah.
Well, let's rate these two episodes. What would you rate the very first one?
I gave it 8 prop masters.
8 prop masters for Raiders of the Lost Ark, eh? Okay. Mm-hmm. 8's not bad.
No, it wasn't bad, but I didn't love it as much as you.
No, because I'm giving it 9.5 George Lucas's. Because they probably said it at least 9.5 times. But yeah, 9.5 because I really, really enjoyed it the second time around. So
Nice.
And what about for Legion of Doom?
I gave it 9 black flashes.
Oh, okay. We're opposite here, yeah.
Yeah, I liked that one quite a bit more.
Cool. Well, I'm going to split my rating. For the first 3/4 of this episode, I'm going to give it 8 insults and comebacks.
All right.
But the last quarter of the episode, when from our quotes that we just started playing, when they started to figure out the time travel stuff, how Thawne could be there, the stuff between Merlin, Thawne, and Dark, all of that stuff, and Black Flash when he comes in and how creepy it was, all of it. That last quarter, I give 9.5 creep-tastic vibes.
Very good.
Because that last couple minutes was just edge of your seat, don't take a breath type of viewing, and I loved it.
It was great. I thoroughly enjoyed that episode. I loved the villain perspective, and I loved Merlin and Dark and their back and forth and their quippiness, and it was great. I loved it.
Yeah, totally. All right. It's time for feedback.
Holy Twin Powers, activate!
All right, let's kick it off. Let me get it ready here. Let's kick it off with a voicemail from our friend X-Force11 who managed to get in with us this week.
Yay.
Hello, Flash, Harley, and Legends. This is Jeff X-Force11 leaving my feedback about Raiders of the Lost Ark and Legion of Doom. Wow, what fun episodes. Season 2 just really rocked. I loved the whole George Lucas storyline, the looking at what a difference the filmmaker made in our Legends' lives, and digging into why Rip is the way he was, and the revelation of the Spear of Destiny, the Holy Lance. Such fun episode. And man, the Legion of Doom, getting into just really these three working together on more equal footing. And going back, I had forgotten a lot of it, and I was just thinking, what's chasing Mr. Thawne here? And I thought,
do you want time wraiths? Because that's how you get time wraiths.
Fair enough. I accept your completely nonsensical response.
But it wasn't time wraiths. It was Hunter Zolomon chasing Mr. Thawne and trying to catch back up with him, and I love the details on that. And the look into Stein and Lily. Oh, just so great episodes. I'm just loving this season. I'm having so much fun going through it with all of y'all. On to next week. I am looking forward to those episodes as well. All right, those are my thoughts. X-Force11 is out.
Every time you play a Tony and Joe clip, I just die. Love it.
Yeah, man, it's been a long time since we heard those guys covering Flash, eh? Boy, oh boy, but yeah.
Long time.
Nah, fun stuff, Jeff, for sure. I'm right there with you. Yeah, like trying to remember what's chasing Thawne. It's amazing that we're forgetting some of these elements, and I think that's what's making this so much more enjoyable. Enough time has passed that we can go through it and not be, totally going, oh yeah, this again. We're actually getting to relive the excitement, and some of it I'm enjoying even more than I did the first time.
Yeah, for sure. Some of them I am too.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that stuff is just awesome. And next up is an email from Dreamweaver. Which one do you want to take? You want to take Raiders of the Lost Ark, or do you want to take Legion of Doom?
Which one's shorter?
Well, how about I'll take Raiders because I enjoyed it more than you. And you take Legion of Doom because you enjoyed it more.
That sounds perfect.
Okay. She says, hello, Flash and Harley, coming at you with a shorter email. Oh, this time around, as I'm moving this week and will most likely be on the road when you're recording this. So just a few thoughts on the episode this week. Well, good luck on your move. Let us know when you get there safely. Episode 9, Raiders of the Lost Ark. While this episode is certainly campy, it's a fun, enjoyable kind of campy. The writers got real meta with weaving in references and jokes about their own writing in season 1, Like the dig at Savage not being able to bring any menace to the part, and the sign that literally said "Legends this way." Oh yeah, that was funny.
That was funny.
I laughed so hard when Jax and Sarah passed by the med bay while Stein is operating on Mick, and his response to what he's doing is a nonchalant but sassy brain surgery. What does it look like I'm doing? Victor Garber seriously has the best sense of delivery when it comes to pretty much all of his lines. And if I remember correctly, is this chip being deactivated in Mick's brain the reason why he doesn't remember any of his training as Kronos? That's what Harley just discussed. Yep.
Yep. I love Victor Garber. I loved the way that he would deliver lines in these later seasons. Oh, so good.
Oh, that's the experience, right? Seeing Nate and Ray's whole lives and careers being directly affected by certain movies not being made is a very interesting concept, especially as a filmmaker. I always wonder if anything I'll make will ever end up affecting or inspiring anyone. So them playing with this idea makes my nerdy self happy. And I'm now imagining what it would have been like if I had all of a sudden been visited by time travelers while I was in film school, and some of them told me that movies I had yet to make affected the trajectory of their whole lives. Yeah, exactly. I mean, just imagine that. It's cool. I'm with you there, Dreamweaver, about that film stuff. I tried to pick out all the Easter eggs and references I could find in this episode that related to George Lucas and or any of his movies. So here's a little comprehensive list. Oh, this should be fun.
Oh, wow.
This one is not Lucas related, but the angels and ministers of grace defend us. That rip quote at the very beginning is just from Shakespeare, Hamlet, more specifically. Cool. Also, not Lucas related, but Nate naming the Legion of Doom after the Super Friends cartoon, another meta reference. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm curious who amongst us is old enough to have watched that when it was initially on way back when in the 70s, because I know I am.
I know I'm not.
Merlin and Dark using laser blasters and having terrible aim with them. Yeah. Touched on that.
They were stormtroopers. There's your explanation. They became stormtroopers.
Yeah, there you go.
Boom.
Ray piloting the Waverider saying he's channeling his inner Han Solo. Yep. The whole rooftop scene when they are escaping the precinct is very similar to when Lando, Leia, and the gang are escaping Cloud City at the end of Empire. Oh yeah, I guess you could connect that. Sure. The years Gideon reads off for George being Salesman of the Year are 1977, 80, and 83. The years the original trilogy was released. Yes. Excellent pull.
I didn't pick up on that until I saw it written out. And I was like, oh, I get it now.
Love it, Dreamweaver. Love it. Amaya talking to George and saying he's their only hope. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
This one is just a tidbit, but this episode would have come out after The Force Awakens, and Macy Richards Sellers has a very small role in that movie. That's right. She's on the balcony cheering at the end, I believe.
Yeah, I forgot she was in that.
Yeah. The trash compactor scene, obviously.
I think everybody got that one.
One of the cars in the dump is from American Graffiti, one of Lucas's earlier movies. Yes.
Oh.
Cool. When Vixen throws Malcolm across the dump in the fight, there's a Wilhelm scream, which is a staple in all Star Wars movies. Oh, I never noticed that. Huh. Crazy.
I don't know what that means.
The Wilhelm scream. That's the
that's probably what made me laugh so hard.
That was a poor rendition of it, but yeah, that's they use the same recording sound effect for anybody falling off a ledge or falling or whatever. It's been done a lot, so that's the Wilhelm scream. One of the crystal skulls from Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is on the desk in the library on the Waverider, or so it looks like. I'm not positive on this one. Ooh. Oh, that I'm going to have to look into. Cool. The Spear of Destiny was supposed to be the subject of one of the Indiana Jones movies, but was made to be part of an Indiana Jones comic instead. Now, that's a fact I didn't know.
Me either.
Very cool. Howard the Duck. No. I also find it funny that Marvel Comics exists within this version of the DC universe. Let me know if you caught anything else. Yeah, Howard the Duck is awful. And
I've never seen it.
You've never seen it? It's worth watching once just so you know that you've seen it and you can see how crazy awful it is. I mean, the movie itself, it's put together well, but it's just so bad. And they're talking about remaking it too. Can you believe it? Ugh.
No, seems like a bad choice.
But it is funny. And I mean, these shows have always talked about Marvel Comics being their comic books that they read. in DC, which is funny. I mean, DC is just acknowledging their comics competitor, and yet I don't think I've ever seen Marvel Comics talk about DC stuff.
I feel like they're doing it on these shows just to be part of like the zeitgeist because the MCU is just so all encompassing at this point.
That's true. Awesome stuff, Dreamweaver. Well, moving on to her next part of the episode.
All right, episode 10, Legion of Doom. It was fun to have an episode mostly dedicated to the villain's perspective, especially when the Legion consists of such fun bad guys. But I also enjoyed how the two sides' goals for the episode lined up. Both Merlin and Dark and the Legends were trying to figure out Thawne's plan at the same time. Good writing. Also, it's great to see the writers point out specifically which version of Thawne this is and the science-y time travel reasons as to why he's still around instead of leaving the viewers to just guess about it. Typically, I'm not a fan of heavy exposition, just thrown around, but in this case, it's probably necessary to drop the info so viewers wouldn't be lost. At this point in time, it's right after Flashpoint, and there's already enough timeline changes that it would have been easy to have gotten confused as to how Thawne is still around. Yes. And this episode sets the groundwork for why the Legion of Doom is now even more a force to be reckoned with now that they're all partners instead of henchmen, and why it's clearly so important that they be stopped before using the Spear of Destiny.
Yeah.
Opening that amulet in the middle of Jitters looks like a great idea. Good idea. Can't imagine anybody that giant glowing map saw that giant glowing map appear. Yes, sarcasm. Also, they're in Central City. Why not just pop by Star Labs, ask Barry who the evil speedster is?
Good point.
Couldn't get Grant for that episode? I don't know. Since that mnemonic device was being kept in a bank deposit box, does that make that bank a literal memory bank? Har har. I noticed that the label on the champagne Ray makes in the food fabricator said Guggenheim on it. It did. That's right.
Oh, there's a little Easter egg for you.
Yes. And there's the first look at Evil Rip at the end. Looks like the American Revolution episode is next. I think I enjoyed Rip's small stint as a villain more than I ever really did him as a hero, if I'm being honest. And being a part of the Legion gave the Legends even more of a run for their money, even more than they already had up to this point in the season. All right, that's all for this week. Both episodes were really fun. I'm continuing to really enjoy the rewatch of the season. Until next time, your friend Dreamweaver.
Oh.
Yay. Good times as always.
Not good stuff, Dreamweaver, for sure. I'm curious. I'm guessing she liked the first one better than the second one. I don't know.
It's hard to tell.
Both were really fun and continue to really enjoy their watch. Yeah. I don't know. But good thoughts as always, Dreamweaver. Nice good luck on your move, and we'll look forward to hearing from you when you get back. Yeah. Next up is our friend Carrie Johnson. You know, we've had the same three feedbackers week after week, so it's kind of fun. It's like a quintet right now of people for this. It's 5. You, me, 3 feedbackers.
Oh, I was trying to figure that one out. I was like, wait, what's 3? And now I'm just confused.
No, that was a real Harley moment there. You should have seen the look on her face.
I was like, what?
That was a Barry Allen over-sciencing Harley Quinn. That was funny. Even though she's supposed to be pretty smart, right?
Whatever. Play the voice back.
Here's Carrie Johnson.
Hey, Flash and Harley. It's Carrie. I'm here with feedback for Raiders of the Lost Ark and Legion of Doom. Man, what really fun episodes these were. Let's start with Raiders of the Lost Ark. There's just so many good things about it. I'm just going to sort of talk about some of the things that really stood out for me. Crazy enough, it's the sort of like plot hole, I guess you would call it, in the episode, right? So you got Nate and Ray, who are basically influenced to either go into science or become an historian because of George Lucas and the movies that he made. But in this episode, obviously, because of the Legion of Doom, George Lucas never made those movies. And of course, as a result, basically Ray lost all of his science acumen, and Nate obviously lost his historian acumen, and he also lost his ability to steal up because obviously Ray did not make the serum for him, and because of all this. The question I have is, if that was indeed the case, then why the hell were they still on the Waverider? I mean, if Ray was just basically a regular doctor and Nate was a yoga instructor, like they said, then there's no way in hell that Rip would have got him on the ship. But it made for a funny moment, but it did create a bit of a plot hole. Anyway, one of my absolute favorite moments had to be when Sarah and Jax were walking by and Mick and Stein were sitting there, and Stein had some equipment and looks like he was about to do something to Mick, and basically Sarah and Jax be like, "What are you doing?" And basically with a straight face and deadpan, Stein says, "What does it look like?" "Brain surgery." And they just looked at each other and kept walking. I mean, that's just freaking hilarious, right? Let's see. Actually, and I know that moment was a bit of fun, and to a degree, the way they were sort of talking about, or at least how Mick was sort of talking about this whole situation where he continued to see Snart after he died. Yeah, they played it a little bit for fun, but it's probably the only way that Mick really knows how to sort of put into words or address the trauma that he has from losing Snart. And sure, it might be played for laughs a little bit, but it's still nice to see that the show has made a point to note how sort of mental health struggles or emotional health struggles can have a significant impact. And sure, they did it in the way that the Legends do it, by having a little bit of fun, but it's still nice to see that point still being addressed and how important or what kind of impact Snart's loss had on Mick. One other thing I thought was really interesting, and you sort of lose sight of it, right? Because everyone seems to be able to fly the Waverider, right? It was real nice to have that one little moment when I think someone asked Ray if he knew how to fly it, and he was like, well, Gideon does most of the work, and she was like, yeah, I do. And so I guess that lends a little bit of credibility to why everyone seems to be able to fly a time ship, right? So overall, I thought Raiders of the Lost Ark was fun. I really had laughed out loud, I guess, toward the end when they were sitting in the trash compactor, and it was basically the same trash compactor scene from Star Wars, and it was nice to have that call back. Speaking of Raiders of the Lost Ark, full disclosure, I've actually never seen that Indiana Jones movie, Raiders of the Lost Ark with a K. Don't at me, I just haven't seen it. I've probably seen like one Indiana Jones movie, and it was probably the worst one, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Wish I hadn't seen it. Probably 2-3 hours of my life I'll never get back. So let's go to Legion of Doom. Oh man. Everything that's been really great this season was on display in this episode. I mean, you had like the Legion, and of course you had Dark doing the intro, which is always fun when they have somebody else do it. But it basically was a reminder to maybe people, some like me, who sort of forgot, which part of the timeline these guys are plucked from and why exactly they were plucked from where they were. But obviously you see Malcolm basically sitting in this hovel, and he's a shell of himself because he's lost his way, and he's sitting there drinking in the dark. And of course you get like you have Eobard on, and you have Damien showing up like, the hell do we need this loser for, right? But again, it sort of goes back to the whole thing, I guess, about like Raiders of the Lost Ark and the little joke that they had in there about the fact that because when they were doing Rip's play, which is basically his memories from his time of being a time master, and how ineffective of a villain Vandal Savage was, basically seeing the Legion of Doom sort of work together and to some degree sort of backstab each other is just a 180 degree difference in terms of villain and chemistry from what we had in season 1 and then obviously what we got in season 2. And to be honest, there hasn't been a sort of villain or a group of villains who've even come close to what we have here. Just freaking fantastic. And this episode, it just flowed so incredibly well from sort of the figuring out of the mystery that our legends were doing, even though, as Dark said, that they are a bunch of idiots, right? But having basically having Nate be able to sort of figure this out, because he's an historian and he knows about these things, just sort of being able to figure out this mystery at the same time that our villains are sort of revealing what's going on with them. I just thought it was a great parallel, and it was just it was good pacing, it was good direction, it was good writing. I mean, this episode just sort of just went from one spot to the next spot to the next spot, and it would just move incredibly well. Really, really well done episode. I don't know that I have a sort of rating to give them, but they were just really cool. Great rewatch. They solved some mysteries, still put some mystery out there. One thing that sort of still bugs me, right? So you got Stein, who brought his younger self onto the Waverider, and we saw how bad that went. I guess bad, depending on your definition. He created a time aberration, right? Which is his daughter. And then, of course, he goes and brings his daughter on the ship. I mean, Stein's a pretty smart guy, but those were kind of stupid decisions, particularly knowing that eventually Mick, as he is wont to do, is going to spill the beans about the fact that she's a time aberration. I mean, who didn't see that coming? Obviously, it was Stein who didn't see it coming. The other thing that I really liked about this episode was the visual effect and sort of the feeling that you got from, I guess that's what, a speed demon that was basically chasing down Eobard Thawne. The music that was playing, the look of it, it just had a horror feeling to it, and it was really well done. Of course, another plot hole is that the speed demon apparently can't track him because he's apparently blind. I'm assuming, kind of like those things that are in A Quiet Place, that movie, where they can only basically chase things by either hearing them or whatever. They can't see. So in this situation, are we to believe the speed demon can't see, but he can only sense the speed force? And the whole deal was, well, if Eobard Thawne is in one place for too long, the speed demon will come get him, right? Okay. So if your plan to defeat the speed demon was for him to stop running, then how does it make sense that the speed demon would get to him if he was in one place too long? Because that would also mean that he's not running. Another plot hole. I mean, it's not like a Wonder Woman 1984 plot hole, but it's still a plot hole. Anyway, hope I did not ramble too long, but I really like these two episodes. If I had to give them a grade, I'd probably give them both 9s to 9.5s out of 10. Look forward to the next few episodes, and I'm really interested in what you guys have to say about them and what our legendaries have to say about them too. Talk to you later. Take care. Bye.
First off, Carrie, how have you not seen the Indiana Jones movies by now? How have you not seen the Indiana Jones movies by now? Like, seriously. Dude, gotta go watch them. People, I don't know why people give hate to Crystal Skull. I actually still enjoyed it. It's Harrison Ford getting to play Indy in his 70s. Come on. But you need to watch the original trilogy because the Raiders is just fantastic. It's what starts it all. We actually just me and Patty Spivot just saw it recently, a couple months ago. Our movie theater up here was doing a retro thing, so we went and watched Raiders up on the big screen of the theater again, and man, to go all the way back to 1980 and see that again, it was crazy cool. But Temple of Doom is a little bit over the top, but Last Crusade, I think, is generally hailed as the best of all of them. When you have Sean Connery come in and play his dad, it's lots of fun, just great archaeological adventure.
Yeah, no, the Indiana Jones movies are good.
Now, I was getting a bit confused with his confusion at the end there about he didn't understand how the Black Flash tracked Eobard.
Oh, it was tracking the speed force.
Yeah, so and if he doesn't run, he's not generating any Speed Force, and therefore the Black Flash can't find him. So essentially it's more of a scent kind of thing. But then,
yeah,
what was he questioning? He was questioning about, well, if he stays in one spot for too long, he'll be able to find him. It's just more of a matter of he'll catch up to him. That's what he's doing, is that the Black Flash, I believe, comes to get speedsters when it's time for them to go. So at the end of their, I don't know how else you would put it, at the end of their time in the timeline, they have to be, I guess, absorbed into the Speed Force. That's what he does. So the fact that Eobard is jumping around through time trying to get away from that fate, he's trying to catch up to him and yeah, basically suck him in.
Yeah. Yeah, but the thing that they put forth in the episode is that as long as he doesn't use the Speed Force, then the Black Flash can't actually track him. So they just get him to stay in one space. And yes, the Black Flash knows that he's there, but because he's not using the Speed Force, he can't actually find him.
That's just
to take him.
Yeah, but to me, it's like it's the last point in the timeline the Black Flash sensed Speed Force being used. So he's there, but he doesn't know where Eobard is gone since then. So if Eobard were to take off, then he would pick up the trail again and have to catch up to him. So
yeah, and I believe we don't end up seeing the Black Flash again until the finale of this season.
Yeah,
because I think they use the time sphere. Because I feel like I remember us joking how they all fit in that time sphere.
Yeah.
Because there's only one seat, but anyways.
Yeah, it's a bit confusing, but again, it's still, I think the writing for it is just so fantastic, though, because of all the stuff they're trying to incorporate, and it makes sense. I mean, at least they're trying to write these ideas, whereas nowadays it's just kind of lazy, and they're just like, whatever, just accept whatever we give you. You know, it's back then they were giving us stuff to dive into, whether we tear it apart or whether we figure it out, it doesn't matter. They're giving us stuff to discuss and get into, and it's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, awesome thoughts as always, you guys, and everybody else out there that's listening in for this season 2 rewatch. We got a couple episodes to go, so get in on the fun here and join us for our rewatch. And to do that, listen to this.
If you would like to be a part of the show, you can send in your feedback to tomorrowslegends@gmail.com. That's spelled with one R. You can also reach us on Twitter at tomorrowslegends, also with one R. We'd love you to join our Facebook page at facebook.com/groups/tomorrowslegends and become part of the community.
All right, that does it for this week, guys. Episodes 9 and 10. We're moving on to 11 and 12. And what did you say? There were 17 this season?
Yeah. So we'll do 11, 12, then we'll do 13, 14, and then we'll do the last 3, 15, 16, 17 together.
Right.
Finish this out.
Finish this out just in time for a couple of the shows to come back. So I don't remember what's next. I completely am not remembering.
I remember bits and pieces, but it'll be good. It'll be a fun rewatch.
Yeah, it totally will. So awesome stuff, guys. Again, thanks for the feedback, and hope everyone's doing okay in the new year and everything's kind of feeling back to normal again. With all that kind of stuff. And again, check out my Mandalore podcast. There's not a lot going on right now because Mandalorian is over, but we do have a couple special bonus episodes coming real quick for you. And guess what? I released a Cybercast episode this week.
Oh, wow.
And I haven't done that in a year.
Wow.
So yeah, it was a movie review. I reviewed Wonder Woman 84, which is kind of funny because Gary mentions it, and that's why I chuckled. So check out my review on Cybercast. That's all I got for you guys this week. This is The Flash, signing out.
And this is Harley Quinn. I'm out.
Tomorrow's Legends is not affiliated with CBS, Warner Brothers, or the CW. We're a fan-made podcast for entertainment purposes only and are part of the Cybercast Network.